Taylor Simone Quick, and this is a documentary influenced by my English 1102 course taught by Professor Dutta. The purpose of this documentary leans towards learning more about the exciting aspects of helping children who are gifted in various ways, such as exceptional children. Now, exceptional children is another term for categorizing children with special needs. Exceptional children are those who exhibit different physical attributes and learning abilities from the norm that take away from fully benefiting in an education. So, students with hearing problems, sight problems, or even students who have trouble in math may all go under this category. The term exceptional child was formed to represent a more positive meaning to describe children with special needs. The reason why I chose to do an inquiry on exceptional children is simple. I wanted to learn more about the impact that they have on society. My focus was to research deeply, learning more about the exciting aspects of helping children who are gifted in various ways.
What do the classrooms look like? What type of relationship do special education teachers develop with their students? How do exceptional children participate in academic classes? What kind of impact do these students have on their classmates and teachers?
I can say that being an education major, I was really influenced by my special education course to do this. So, being the type of person who likes the hands-on approach, I went out into the school to do observations for a resource classroom. I figured that doing that would help me learn a lot more on the topic. When I arrived at Sandlapper Elementary, I made sure that I was early enough to ask if the teacher would mind conducting a quick interview with me. And Sandlapper Elementary is located in South Carolina, which is where I'm from. My aunt's a teacher, and so I contacted her about her school and asked if she knew of any teachers who were in the special education department. So I got the chance to ask the teacher a few questions before I left, and I'll fill you guys in on how that interview went later. But a resource classroom is not the typical special needs classroom that most people think of when they hear classroom for gifted students.
A resource classroom is provided for students who need some instruction in an individualized or small group setting for a portion of the day. Students will get pulled out of their large classroom for about an hour to work on skills such as writing, counting, and reading.
During my observations, I kept plenty of notes in this notebook, and I took very detailed logs, so I'm going to read out a couple of sentences from each log that I kept.
During my observations, I was greeted by Mrs. Catherine Austin, who is the resource classroom teacher at Sandlapper Elementary. When I walked into her classroom, I was amazed by the amount of posters that she had placed all over her walls. They made the classroom very colorful and inviting. Mrs. Austin gave a great impression as she made me feel welcome, and I knew that I would enjoy observing her class. The day was starting at 8 a.m., so Mrs. Austin and I walked down to two classrooms to get the first two students for their resource classroom time. The two children, Trey and Casey, had very separate yet similar personalities. It was early in the morning, yet they were extremely energetic. Their first activity was to complete a worksheet that helped them sound out letters. Casey and Trey both did well in figuring out what sound the letter D makes, and Mrs. Austin rewarded them with a good job. After each student finished their worksheet, they participated in reading time. The two sat on the carpet constantly moving around while Mrs. Austin sat next to them in a chair. She asked, "Who wants to read the first word?" And they both raised their hands with Casey yelling, "Pick me, please pick me." Casey yelled out answers many times, so Mrs. Austin had to tell him to let Trey take a turn. First, Mrs. Austin would sound out a letter, and the student would have to choose a word that began with a letter that made that sound. Trey would often get sidetracked, sit in a chair, and sing. The teacher never yelled. She would only quietly tell him to calm down. Whenever a student got an answer wrong, the two would sound out the word together. I liked how the teacher never yelled because it shows how yelling is not required to discipline children. It shows that if you speak to children nicely, they should respond nicely.
There was so much that I observed from 8 o'clock in the morning to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and going through it all would take minutes more. So, moving on to the interview, I asked Mrs. Austin a couple of questions, and here they are with her response.
Question number 1. How long have you been a special education or resource teacher? Her response was, I have been for 14 years now. Question number 2. What made you decide that you wanted to teach in such a setting? Her response, my sister was born with a disability, and so she was my inspiration. Question number 3. What are the key qualities that you feel a special education teacher should have? Her response was, they should definitely have patience and a passion to help children. Question number 4. Do you feel that your school gives exceptional children all of the attention needed to help them grow? Her response, yes, but it is more of the district that offers enough resources to improve a child's learning abilities. And the last question, how do students in other classroom types react to students with special needs when they see them in the hallways? Her response was, you can tell that they may get a little scared or curious about seeing some of the children, but most of the children with serious disabilities are kept away from the other classrooms.
I also took time to interview a UNC Charlotte student, and here is what this anonymous person said. Reflecting back on this inquiry, I can say that it definitely helped me learn a lot about myself.
I chose to do an inquiry that would help me discover a lot about children with special needs. The discovery was a long process, but I learned a lot. By conducting interviews, making many observations, and researching articles online, I was able to gain a deeper confidence of what I want to do in life, that is, to help children. Conducting this inquiry allowed me to view the challenges that young children go through during a daily class.
People may look at exceptional children, wonder, and be amazed by how they persevere through so much. That perseverance starts with the help from care providers around them, and that should definitely be recognized. If a child knows that you believe in them, then they will believe in themselves.
So this puts an end to my video, and I hope that you enjoyed it. Thanks!